Welcome to the Rollwise Podcast, the weekly show that was on hiatus and is now coming back for its resumption of weekly episodes. We do explore all things RPGs, and I'm Mike, one of your hosts, and I'm followed by my two good friends, Brent
Hello, everybody.
and Jeff.
Hi.
All right. So this week we don't have a particular game in mind that we were going to discuss. Mostly we were just going to talk a little bit about our time off and tell you a little bit of the plan for the next couple episodes that we were thinking about doing. And then, of course, sky's the limit. We hope to really start figuring out what anybody wants to hear about. We've got some suggestions from some folks, but we want you guys to tell you what games you'd like us to look at or what things you would like us to look at. I mean, who knows? Maybe you would want to hear our opinion on movies, video games, books, something else. But we'll let you guys decide. So, the first ever annual, semi-annual, possibly annually, Rollwise meetup. It was official. It was done. It was a party of three, and we had quite a bit of fun.
I think decadal is that a word? Because I think it's been about a decade since the last time we were all together in the same place.
Something like that.
Facebook is really good about reminding me as to when I've done things because it's like my personal stalker. And so it told me that I was last in Montana in 2016. So
yeah, that makes sense. No, it should have been because I think it was after that.
I want to say it was too, but that's the last time Facebook seems to recall me being there. But then again, we had a bad breakup, so me and Facebook don't talk.
Because my wife was gone the last time you were here.
Oh, yeah. Was she still there for our friend's wedding? She was.
She was. So it had to be 2018-ish.
Must have been.
And I think it was right around my birthday because I wasn't going to be here and then I canceled my trip. So, so I think Facebook is telling you lies.
Well, we did have a little bit of a bad breakup and I stopped posting as much on Facebook. So now Facebook is just like your high school memories that kind of come back every so often and be like, remember 15 years ago when you did this really cool thing? Yes, I do. I don't do cool things anymore, apparently.
My Facebook never reminds me of cool things I did, so maybe it's me.
I think it has something to do with the types of memories you put on Facebook, Brent.
That's probably true.
Yeah, the kind of content you give Facebook. They're like, remember this one time?
If it's all funerals and cold rainy days and
it's
divorces,
that's
what you get reminded of.
It's a lot.
Here's a memory we want to share with you.
There's actually nothing on my Facebook about my divorce.
Okay,
at all.
Sorry. I was just trying to think of bad things that weren't.
It's mostly my dog, frankly.
Well, that's true for almost everyone.
Do you remember this one day 6 years ago when your dog did this? That's what Facebook does for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Facebook does for me. Oh, look at this! Look at this cute picture of your dog you posted 10 years ago. Oh, and then we move on.
Yeah. I am surprised you didn't want to memorialize that at least somewhat to say this is my pound of flesh, this is the day and all that stuff. But maybe you don't want Facebook to remind you every year.
I don't like really broadcasting that stuff because there's a lot of people that are still friends with her, I think, that were on my Facebook potentially, and I just didn't want to cause any problems. So
you didn't go through and have an unfriending party?
I didn't.
Oh wow!
Let's have an unfriending party
right now.
Yeah, live.
I didn't realize live on the podcast it's discuss Brent's divorce time.
Well, we can talk about mine, but I did some unfriending.
Yours was longer ago than mine, so yeah, and I don't know, mine was pretty interesting considering all the stuff that we went through, but that's Patreon content if people want to hear about it.
So we're apparently what this is turning into is Brent is going to start doing Twitch streaming as he does unfriending sessions, and then Patreon to know exactly who's unfriended. There's tiers. Do you get all the people? Just some of the people? God, this is like trauma porn right here.
If you want to hear the drama, you have to pay for it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, the good news is we didn't swear within the first minute, so I guess we can move away from that topic.
Okay, we're good. We can go now, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, so it's actually been a few weeks, and for those of you that are just catching up to us, we did spend a little bit of time in Montana. That's our old stomping grounds. I moved away from Montana; those two still lived up there, and we thought we'd visit, show off our new kid to all the friends and family and all that kind of stuff. And it was good to meet people live. We actually have some photos that got posted on Instagram.
Instagram,
Um,
Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook. If you would like to see what the three of us look like as like real people in the same place, you can always check us out at what are our socials again, Jeff?
It is at Rollwise on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you'd like to email us, it is rollwiseguys@gmail.com.
Way to sneak the pop quiz in there. Way to go.
I could try to sound more convincing, like I don't know what our social media and stuff is too. Where are we on social media? It's definitely not Twitter.
Mike's not allowed to post comments.
I'm glad you didn't ask me because I would have fumbled with that one for a little bit. So, and I'm the one that posts on there, so it would have been really embarrassing.
Yeah, we're on social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
There's
Rumble.
stuff.
We
Just
have the
look.
social medias things.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But it's actually kind of funny because I was actually thinking while we were up there, we would actually do role playing games. And what we did is we did a shit ton of board games, which I'm not opposed to in any capacity, but I actually thought there would be a chance to do a one shot or half a shot or something.
You have responsibilities that made that, I think, not possible.
I was optimistic. That's okay. But I kind of thought we'd do that. But I mean, in terms of games though, I was surprised. So for anybody that's wondering, like, we have a friend, and I think you guys have a pretty healthy amount of games too. Brent, I know you have a good number of RPGs, and Jeff, you have a small number of board games, don't you yourself?
Yeah. We have a slowly burgeoning collection of board games.
But
me and my partner play.
I was really surprised because our friend, when I went down into like the basement area, it was covered in board games. Did you guys make your way down there to see the number of board games?
We weren't allowed to because the child was sleeping.
We were
when we were over.
Yeah, we were verboten.
Verboten.
Like, there's a lot. We weren't allowed to pass gas very loud.
That's not
which
true.
is understandable. No, it's understandable.
Yeah, but no, there was a lot of role playing games, or not role playing games. There's a lot of board games like upstairs, like in the common area that we were in.
That was probably like a fifth of what was downstairs, maybe. Like, it's insane what those guys have got going there, and I'm jealous to some degree because I mean I have a small number of board games, but definitely like I've played all the board games once or twice, so I've kind of gone through my library a few times, and my library isn't even like 1/20th the library that they have.
Board games always sound good, but then I realize I don't have enough friends to play board games all the time.
That's
so
you have us. We can get on Tabletop Simulator and we can play something.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It's actually Jess and I did some tabletop simulation, and it wasn't. It's not bad for certain games. It's amazing. For other games, it's a little more challenging, but we also could just get you over here.
But I mean, like,
we have tables, or we could bring something over to your house.
Yeah,
we just need to actually get off our butts.
I guess one of the things that I think when I talk about playing like board games seriously, though, it's like more than like 4 or 5 people. I think is usually what I think of a board game like group. Like 3 is
4 or 5.
3 is good. No, 4 or 5. Like 3 is good, but I think 4 or 5. Like you couldn't play. What did we play? What's the signal game that we played? Wavelength. Yeah, Wavelength. Like you couldn't play Wavelength very well with 3 people.
No, that's really a party game. That's really You probably want 6 and up. 4 and up, even is a little small.
Yeah, well, and that game specifically seemed like the more the merrier because of the type of game it was. And so, for anybody that's wondering, Wavelength, you have a copy of the game, right, Jeff? Do you want to describe what the game is?
Wavelength's a game where you're trying to get your team to guess a place in a range, and the range is a half circle. But the ranges are weird. It's not like 1 to 100. It's like easy to hard. It's like Democrat to Republican. They're clever little things, and you read the card and you place, you try to guess a word that lines up with the range that the game wants you to find.
Mm-hmm.
And then your teammates guess, and they get to, go back and forth. And then the other team gets to guess whether it's to the left or right, like the actual answers to the left or right. So the team that isn't playing can score. It's really quick. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of how could that be?
It's one of those games where you learn a lot about the people that are playing. Really,
Yeah,
you do. How they think, how they reason. But it's a lot of fun. Everybody we've played it with, I think it won some awards last year, or the year before when it came out. Like it's a good party game, and you can play it with almost anybody because it's pretty not safe for work, I guess, non-adult. I hate to use the term adult.
It
can be. It can be. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
If all your answers are, snorting coke off of a stripper's butt, then yeah.
Well, but you would have to say that, snorting coke off a stripper's butt, and then you'd have legal, illegal,
right? Yeah,
good, bad.
Good, bad, immoral.
Well, and depending
ethical.
on who you are, I mean, that might be the pinnacle achievement of somebody's life.
Exactly.
No.
So Wavelength was fun. I enjoyed that one. Then we played Dixit. Was that the other one that we played? The art one?
Yeah, the art one was a good one where it was like basically like 15 tiles of various art that had to be interpreted in a way that was like, how would you describe it? Like I have 15 ways of describing a word using the art below.
Yeah,
right?
they pulled a word, like what was one of them? Australia was one of them that we got.
Like America?
And yeah, like America and Australia. I think we got Africa. Somebody didn't shuffle those cards very well. And then you have to pick the cards that kind of look like something that could be representational of that. Art was one of them, which I think was funny because it's like, I don't know, they're all art. So, but yeah, so.
And it was also really interesting because you wanted to be ambitious because then you got more points if you were ambitious. But you also didn't want to be ahead of everybody else. So you had to be sort of cautious that you weren't being like too generous with interpreting the art on the board. Because then if you had said like, oh, eight of these tiles I can match to the word in this way, and everyone else is sitting at 2 or 3 points, then for the ones that you do match, you actually got less points than everybody else in that.
Yeah, or if you picked one that no one else matched with, you don't get any more points. So if you had kind of an obscure one as your first one, like if somebody's like, yeah, no, we didn't match, you're not getting any points that round.
Yeah, and it was like funny because like one of them it was just literally like, oh, this is totally industrial, boom, and everyone's like, no, we didn't. That wasn't what we thought was industrial, and I was like, really?
Yeah,
I'm sorry I missed that one.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about Dixit, so it sounds interesting.
No, it was a really well. I mean, I think the game it's just I didn't feel like the game was as much of a party game as say the Wavelength was. It was interesting though, and I more was interested in seeing the art and really just diving into the kind of like eccentric art that the game had produced, rather than necessarily like I would have been just fine flipping through the cards.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The game was fun, but it's definitely not as interactive, I don't think. As like Wavelength or like Wavelength, you're going to have people screaming at each other probably at some point, which I consider a good party game.
And so we played a few other games while we were there. Did you? And I know we played games where you guys weren't able to be there because we were staying with a host, played games with us. But were you there for that aliens versus the people, the priests one?
I missed that one.
Nope.
I heard it described, and again, it sounded kind of interesting because it's a communication game without words, right?
Yeah.
Was it First Contact or something like that?
I think that it might have been what it was called. But that one, I felt that one was like the most potentially weird one that we played, because basically what you do is you have a number of people that are on one side that represent the native species of the planet, in this case Earth, and they're sending forth their high priests to see who gets selected by the aliens. Then you have another group that are all competing against each other, but they're the aliens. So you have a divide of people versus aliens, and then within these groups, they're all competing against each other in their own ways. The aliens are trying to have 3 resources brought to them by the people, based on the tiles and everything like that that are set out. And it kind of reminds me of like, what is that? Codenames? Is that the one where it's the tiles that you?
Yeah, Codenames has tiles with pictures on it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Codenames, that you have to kind of describe, using symbols. You have to describe what you need, and then they have to decipher it. And it's this game of translation, deciphering. It was, I mean, I'm probably not giving it justice with how it's described, but it was definitely the most complicated, interesting game we played that didn't take a lot to learn because we had played Codenames, but was like really tricky to get right. Because I mean, that was hard to be like, oh, I wrote my 3 symbols, and even though I showed them the 3 symbols and they understood what the 3 symbols were, they still picked wrong. And I was like, fuck.
See, I think I would have liked that, but I think those are some of the things that interest me. It seems like a game that like would be really good for me and for some other people who don't necessarily love that level of deduction.
Yeah.
They may get turned off right away. Like it feels like there's a target audience for that one.
Yeah, and it's like when our friend was describing the rules to the game. Oh, I remember some other friends had come over that night. And I was just like, it is First Contact. That is the name of the board game. And we literally like, we were all this, like, after we heard the explanation, we're just like, let's just play around and see if we are even remotely close to understanding how this game is fucking played. And good news is we were actually pretty close.
That's good.
That one sounds like it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, and what other one did we play? I know you guys. Were you there for the Ouija board one?
That was the other
Yes.
one we all played. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were definitely there for. Do you know the name? Do you remember the name of that one, Mike?
I don't. I don't remember the name of it, but the premise it wasn't actually a Ouija
Right,
board, but it was like you were interpreting spirits, and the spirits had
each team had a spirit with an item or a thing on it, and then you had 2 teams of mediums that were trying to decipher what the spirit was saying letter by letter based off of specific clues you were given.
Yeah. And the first one, we had the clue was what? Dinosaur. That's what we were trying to understand. And the second clue we had was like dentist or toothpaste or something.
Toothpaste.
Yeah, like dinosaur, like none of us were even close. And we've got farther and farther away from that. I think some of our guesses were like mummy, raven.
Yeah, that was ours.
We were thinking of the Chinese terracotta warriors. Like most of our guesses, my team's guesses, were far off.
Well, ours were too. I mean, yeah, but the clues, like what makes that game hard is like, so when you pick the 2 questions and you're like, oh, well, this is definitely the one that he's going to answer because this is the easiest one. And like you slide in the cards and then they pick the other one, the one that you thought was a trash card that there's no way anybody's going to give you a clue for. That
was hard.
I don't remember what the one was, but I remember the first card that they chose to use was in our side was what ceremony is it used in? Whereas the other one was like, where is it from? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And like
And so they chose "Where is it from," didn't they? And then they were
No,
gonna
they
put
threw "Where is it from" away, and they chose what ceremony it's used in, because that was when he started writing out Deathly Hollows, and we couldn't figure it out. Yeah,
That's right. I remember that now. That was
Yeah.
and of course, like we're all just like looking at it, and then they what was the other one that was like what was the opposite of it? And they like the
Meteorite.
opposite was meteorite, and we're like,
Yeah, that was the clue we were given for the
That's
opposite.
right.
What is the
I forgot
opposite?
about that.
What listeners? What is the opposite of dinosaur? It is
Yeah.
not meteorite. I don't know what it is, but it is not meteorite.
You should leave us a comment if you know what the opposite of dinosaur is, and you don't think that it's meteorite. 'Cause I can at least understand the logical jumps that they made, that the spirits made to get to that. I don't know that I agree with it, but I didn't have a better answer either.
well,
But
I
if you
I
do, leave
wouldn't
us a
have-
comment.
Yeah, you know what you do? You don't pick that fucking card. That's what you don't do.
well, what's funny is it less like opposite and it more reminds me of like rock, paper, scissors. Obviously, meteorite kills dinosaur, and dinosaur kills tree,
Yeah.
and tree bounces back meteorite or something. I don't really know if that's not a perfect example, but that doesn't really feel like an opposite to me.
Yeah, so we got really lost in that one because it was like our clues were, they turned out to be like Deathly Hollows, Egypt, Halloween.
Oh no, China was one of them.
China was
That was
one
on
of them.
that was on your side.
That was on our
your
side. Oh, that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
on
that's
our
right.
side,
we were
yeah,
on
it was
opposite
Deathly
teams.
Hollows, Halloween, Egypt, which is where we got Mummy, Dusty, and Meteorite. Those were our three. Those were our three clues on our side, and it was China.
Egg was one of them, right?
Yeah, egg was on your side. China, egg.
We had something with rock.
Yeah, rock claws was on your side.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was really fun, but it was really confusing. And for those of you who don't know, how you get to dinosaur from Deathly Hollows is the Dresden books. There's a undead dinosaur in the Deathly Hollows book.
No, I think the book is called Deadbeat.
Oh yeah, Deadbeat.
And it's isn't it the Halls? It's been so long since I read Dresden. Deathly Hollows is making me think Harry Potter, but maybe it is. Maybe so.
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of lifting. I mean, I don't know. That
it's Harry Dresden into Deathly Hollows.
What was?
Oh, maybe not. Wait, what?
Yeah, I feel like we're heading into Tumblr fan fiction.
That might have been what that was when I looked up. It is Deadbeat. You're right. I believe that is the book that it happened in. But weirdly enough, there is a selection that says Harry Dresden and the Deathly Hollows, but it must be fan fiction. You must be correct.
Maybe somebody combined Dresden and Potter.
Yeah, it must be, which is creepy. But
oh god, that would be a rabbit hole that you'd go down. It's just like
Brent, could you read that and review that for next week's show?
That's Patreon content as well.
Oh man, the Deathly Hollow, the wand has got an impossible.
Brent's really pushing for the Patreon tonight.
There's a stretch goal for a Patreon. We'll read your fan fiction if you at a certain subscriber level.
So what he's not telling you is that we don't have a Patreon. We are unfunded content creators. We're not even we're not even begging people for money. We're just having fun. That's all we're really doing. We're doing
that is true.
That is.
But if anybody would pay us money, they should let us know so we can maybe get on that.
Yeah, we will talk about almost any subject. The weird thing with the game, though, for me was that we played 2 rounds. One that seemed so confounding that I'm not sure everybody wanted to play a second round, and a second round that was over in like 3 clues. Like,
yeah,
it was jarring how different those 2 rounds we played were.
That game is entirely based on how good your clue giver is at selecting cards and the words that they choose.
Well, it was funny though because this is my favorite part about the game is because that second round it was going really fast, and obviously the team I was on didn't do as well as the other team, which is okay.
Hey, I was on that team, asshole.
But one of our friends, this is the part that got me, is that he was like, stop, because you basically what happens is as the spirit you like write out a word slowly and kind of like purposefully you write out a letter, you pause, and then your goal is to have the team think that they know what the answer is to the question that's asked on the card, that they're the only people that know what the question is, so they're more likely to know with fewer letters. Of course, if they give the full word, that helps both teams, and it may actually be a detriment to the team that's turn it is. But it was funny because I think my favorite part about that is that when the other person said toothpaste, and they were like, "Yep, that's it," then one of our team members looked at me and said, "What's that first word?" And I'm like, "You son of a..." So confident, like they thought they knew exactly what the first word was, and they were like, "What is that supposed to be?" Yeah, that's another pitfall in the game, is that you think you know what the word was, and I think we had one word. Like,
well, you're trying not to let the spirit give too much information, right?
Right, because you don't want the other
your team knows the question, the other team doesn't know the question you asked, and they're revealing it one letter at a time, and so we were often wrong on my team with our guesses.
Oh no, we had like for meteorite, what did we think it was? We were like, maybe it's meteoric rise.
Whose guess was that?
That was mine, I think.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and own that, so you guys can whatever. Screw you.
Whatever. I hate you.
Nobody's perfect here, okay? We're just laughing at the people not on camera.
Oh no, I was maybe the worst at the game, so whatever. Like I was amazed. Yeah, no, like it was amazing how, man, your clue giver totally makes that game. Like if your clue giver isn't good or sensible, it could be a long night in trying to figure shit out.
Could be. That first round felt like it was going way too fast, but like wasn't progressing at all, because by the last guess, you just guess and you're like, raven.
Yeah. We guess like bird.
Because I think we guessed 2 times in a row just to like double our chances or some bullshit. But
yeah, because more information on the dinosaur one was not helping. It just wasn't.
No.
Whatever information we were getting, we were not properly translating or understanding.
Yeah, it was good though. I have to say
fun.
that it was still a fun.
I wish
game.
I could remember what it was called.
Barney was on your side.
Oh, that's right. Barney was actually close,
and you only got Barn out.
We were pretty sure it was Barney. We had no idea how it related because it wasn't. We couldn't tie it in with any of the other clues we had gotten. That was the problem. Like, that was the one, that was our Rosetta Stone, and we were like, nope.
At least you had one that you felt like was a Rosetta Stone.
Well,
I felt lost. I was like, Halloween? Sure, Mummy. That sounds sure. I don't know.
No, it was good. It was good.
Oh, by the way, if you look up board game and Ouija board, you just get Hasbro's Ouija board. So I failed on that.
I haven't been able to find it, because I thought that they were called spirits, and the one player was a medium. I'm
sure that is correct. I just don't remember what the name of the game was at all.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing it a disservice by not having the name, but it was fun. It was fun.
Mike will put it in the show notes once he finds out what it is.
Well, we can always just ask the person that.
That's why I'm saying you'll put it in the show notes once you find out what the name it is.
It's true. Hashtag to be determined later. So yeah.
Hashtag not professional podcasters.
Well, if the Patreon is if the level of our Patreon is any indication of how professional you are at podcasting, then we are amateur hour. So I think honestly, I mean, we just played a ton of games. I mean, we may have also ate food, did all those kind of things.
Those were like the main things, I think.
But yeah, I mean, anybody can, like, I don't have any real food reviews to add to this. The food was good. We went to a sandwich shop, ate some pizza.
Yep.
We can't really tell you where the food is, or else I'm going to start giving these guys his location away. I'm going to start doxing them. All of a sudden, our fans are going to find you at your favorite deli, Jeff. You'll never know.
Yeah, that's a real problem for me. So
Yeah, terrified. But yeah, so yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just good seeing everybody. You
it
guys,
was good. It was good getting together again.
Yeah.
Not to turn it too weirdly dark, but we just haven't been getting together as much, post COVID, even though we're post COVID now. It's been a little weird. I don't know about for everybody else, and I'm not trying to take this in a political direction, but we have not been gathering as often.
Where I live, I don't have people to gather with. I had one gaming group that I was hanging out here with on a weekly, and then things happened, and then COVID, and then it was
the game was so good that you felt you had to step out, right?
Yeah. It's one way to put it. There were bumps in the road, and that happens. Actually,
Sure.
I had two games. Actually, I was running one of them, and then I was playing in the other one, because that's the one thing that as a forever DM, I feel like I don't get to claim the title of forever DM, because I have played quite a bit in the last few years as well. But there are a lot of people that are in that forever DM that are like, what does it feel like to play a character? I don't.
That's usually
remember.
me, so thank you.
No, I still get to play, so it's not like it bothers me. I don't. Did we? Yeah, we have another game on Sunday where I'm a player supposedly, but that game has been on hiatus a little bit for various reasons. So maybe I'll get to play on it. That's our mutual friend game, the Desert one. And I was very excited to play it because obviously, in anticipation of the new Dune movie, I have watched the old Dune movie, and I'm now going to watch the new Part 1 Dune movie again, just to make sure I have all my
got all the goodness packed in.
That's a lot of Dune, dude. That's a lot of Dune. Like, I don't even know that I'm gonna rewatch the Part 1 before Part 2 comes out.
I might rewatch Part 1. I probably won't watch
the David Lynch version,
the David Lynch one again, because I feel like that's pretty well ingrained into my personality at this point.
Brent, nobody should have to listen to that much exposition from the inside the main character's head.
What you're not a big fan of them telling you all their thoughts?
I love that movie, so I can't.
I love David Lynch, but you can tell that there was somebody handcuffing him, because you don't have if the script is well written and the movie is well shot, you don't need to have all of that the way that they did it. It's really ham-fisted.
I'm trying to think of a David Lynch movie I like better than Dune, and I can't think of one.
Well, all I can say is that I do like the David Lynch version. I
do too. I like it, but
but there are some inconsistencies as you watch the movie. Like first of all, I always like how, because Jessica in the book is a badass. Like, I mean, she's a very big badass, but there's a scene where she like goes from being a badass to being like totally useless on the rock, and she's just like, I'm so scared. And it's like, whoa, that happened fast. And then she gets to the siege, and then she finds Stilgar, and it's just like, I will rip out your fucking throat. And I'm like,
yeah, I will melt your brain. Yeah,
this is a roller coaster of
a bit of a roller coaster here. Yeah.
So, yeah, there were some of those moments in the David Lynch movie that were a little bit weird, but I do wonder what it would be like if you had the ability to mute all of those internal monologues where there was like, I really like this Duke, and you just see like Liette giving the side eye,
I think it was definitely a narrative choice that was a little interesting, but
it was.
I've never noticed it as being a bad thing, though. So,
at least not in that movie. I didn't feel like it was a bad thing. I think he used it to add context to scenes.
Yeah,
but
that's
no, I actually think he did it to tell story, because he couldn't tell the whole book in 2.5 hours, or the hour and 45 minutes, or whatever runtime the studio shoved down his throat. This is just me espousing. I don't think you can do Dune in one movie.
The other problem is
Denis Villeneuve isn't.
Yeah, well, the other problem with Dune is half the book, maybe 3/4 of the book, are the character's thoughts. Like literally, that's the device that he uses in the book too.
I know, but there's a difference between me using some method of an inside voice telling you what I'm thinking of right now, and doing that same method to tell you what the next 3 chapters of the book were that we didn't include in the movie.
Oh, well, I guess that's true.
That was the that I think that's the part. Sorry if I sound preachy.
Well,
I love David Lynch. I like the movie. I do. They did
what
some
other-
things that were actually done really well.
What is your other favorite David Lynch movie?
Even though I've only seen it a couple of times, Blue Velvet's still really good.
Okay, I haven't seen Blue Velvet.
I really like
seen
Twin
Blue Velvet.
Peaks, and I know it's not a movie.
Twin Peaks is okay. I've seen parts of it.
I think you have to see it all. It's weird.
But like Lost Highway was the thing. Mulholland Drive was.
I like Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart had its moments.
So I've apparently just not watched any of his good movies. Apparently,
have you seen Eraserhead? I wonder about your opinions on Eraserhead.
I've never watched all of Eraserhead. I
haven't either.
Watch it.
I haven't either. So that's.
But I need to watch Blue Velvet. I do need to watch that because I've heard that's really good.
The hard part for me is that I have to be. His brain exists in a different universe, and I have to be in the right mindset to really fully appreciate it. Or I'm like, even for me, I'm like, this is just too weird, and I can't like. I don't want to work this hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I like Lost Highway, but I feel like some of his storytelling in it isn't.
No, that's true.
He alludes to too much in it, in my opinion. There should be a little, and things could be.
I forget he did the Elephant Man. I literally.
Oh yeah, he did do that.
I literally forget that, and that Mel Brooks produced it because that is one of the weirdest combos for that type of movie.
That's pretty strange, yeah.
Because that is a straight up like just drama, like like.
Well, it would be hard to make the Elephant Man story a comedy, and if you did, it might come across wrong.
It would definitely, yeah. Sure, you're right.
Well, all I'm saying.
Sorry for the aside.
All I'm saying is that
you're looking forward to Dune.
I'm looking forward to
Dune fans.
And and if anybody is curious, there are multiple versions of Dune, and there's been a few tries. The only one I really can't seem to get a good copy of is the miniseries that they had,
the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, James McAvoy was in that miniseries.
I thought they switched POV characters or they switched lead actors because there was like 2 years of it, right? There was 2 seasons.
I think. Didn't they do the Dune? Then they did a miniseries for Children of Dune that followed that.
I think so. I think that's what they did.
I think I watched like 45 minutes of it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna watch David Lynch's Dune and call it good. Because I couldn't get into it.
I'm still personally sad that Alexander Jodorowsky wasn't able to make his version in the 70s because I think it would have been I don't think it would have been a mainstream hit, but it was the psychedelic. Like I think him and Lynch probably had similar visions, but Lynch had a studio that I believe, ramrodded certain choices down his throat.
Probably.
Well, I mean, did you watch the documentary? I've always wanted to watch the documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune, but it's
I did. It was really good.
But
I thought it was really good.
Didn't they say like it was like way too much money and hadn't even shot?
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah, like the budget was supposed to be like crazy on it, right?
Yeah, especially for the 70s. Like, yeah, I mean, because it was pre-blockbuster, right? I think it was pre-Jaws. If we consider Jaws to be the first summer blockbuster movie, it was purely going to be an art film, but it was going to cost a fortune.
Right. Yeah, and that I think, and I
he
think
had all the connections.
But because like Geiger did the art or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it seemed like it had the recipe, like, cause they were trying to get like the Rolling Stones for the music or something. Like if that recipe would have like been a thing.
It either would have been one of the all-time weirdest movies that had a huge cult following, or it would have been one of the worst movies in history.
Ever made, yeah.
like it would have been the Ishtar, you know what I mean? Like, you spent how much money, and this was the result. Was everybody doing cocaine and acid at the same time?
Yeah, and my mistake. Actually, McAvoy was in Children of Dune. So the Dune and the Children of Dune series. Like, I wanted to get both of them, but I think I only saw like Amazon and eBay have them, and they're not cheap, especially
No,
right
and
now with.
it might just be DVD quality, and it might be region locked to somewhere that's not the United States. Like that's one of
Yeah.
those ones that's in a weird spot, and I don't know if it's music rights or something else, but it wasn't made to be presented to streaming because they didn't tie up all the licensing.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. So, needless to say, I'm excited about Dune. I started watching that. I've been actually watching a lot of movies lately. I did see Avatar: Way of Water. Um, I did watch Evil Dead. Um,
I haven't
so
seen either.
you
Evil
haven't
Dead
seen.
Rise.
Well, I mean, Evil Dead Rise was good. Just me and Brent have already talked about my nitpicks with the movie, but honestly, like I thought the eye through the scene with the peephole was just fantastic. I loved every component of that with the weird kind of fisheye look as it's kind of charging down, children flying
Yeah,
across the way. Like
it was
Chef's kiss.
it was filmed really well, and there was some really good moments in it. And it's a pretty long movie and didn't feel very long. That was what surprised me.
Mhm.
It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it felt like it went fast.
It
So
did,
there's a
yeah.
lot going on. So it was good.
And it was contained. It didn't. I mean, it had a lot of the tropes we talked about with some of our horror RPG stuff. How
Mhm.
like technology stopped working, suddenly the cell phone stopped
Yeah.
working after the earthquake. Like as soon because I'd never really thought of that before, but as soon as you mentioned that, I like watch it in the horror film, and I'm like,
Oh, you'll see it all the time now.
yeah,
Like that's a main thing now. It's like cell phones, got to throw them out the window. Like
yeah. But Avatar: Way of Water, you know, it
best movie ever.
it had the same thing that I had like because the first movie, you know, I went to it and I walked away from that going, that was just so amazing because visually my eyeball receptors hadn't seen a movie like that because it was just such a pretty immersive experience. And the same thing happened with the Way of the Water. Like it was very pretty. Like there was a lot of water scenes and stuff that they did that were just fantastic. But as you watch it, you're just like, you did it again, Mr. Cameron. The first movie wasn't. I didn't feel. I felt like the first movie storytelling was just predictable and okay. And the second movie was the same thing. It was like comfort food. Like you could watch Avatar: Way of Water and you're not going to like surprised by anything that happened in it. But at the same, and so, but it's a solid movie. You know, I mean, would you say the Terminator is a good movie? I mean, the Terminator wasn't exactly like, you know.
I know, but I
was-
may have seen the Terminator 50 times because I was in high school when that came out, and it was the VHS era, and
And like
it was
Terminator,
just one of those movies that everybody had.
and like Terminator set the expectation. Like you can't say Terminator's not great because Terminator is what made what Terminator is the movie that other movies get made off that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you can't like
Well,
is there
I
is
can
there going to
compare
be
it.
is there going to be anybody who writes a movie that's like Avatar: Way of Water and it's any good?
You know, I don't know. Like that's the problem. Like I feel like I feel like just because I mean when you look at the story for both, and the reason I was saying is Terminator's story isn't exactly super deep. Robot from the future comes back. I mean, it's not a crazy premise, but it was just really well executed, in my opinion. You know, and I think that there's just the scenes that they do in the entire the throughout the entire show are just fantastic. But then when you watch Way of Water, I mean, it's a similar thing, not exactly a super crazy premise, and nothing really comes out at you, but you sit there for 3 hours and you go, oh man.
Well, I mean, unobtainium didn't come up once in Terminator, which I think is probably the first clue that the movie might be written very well. What is the element that we can't get? Unobtainium. Oh, because we can't get it.
Okay.
Well, you
Right.
can't get it, but other people can.
Unobtainium. That was when I checked out. I was like, unobtainium, huh? I think I will not be watching this movie.
Well, so it was interesting because the second movie wasn't about unobtainium, but it was similarly exploitative and just a different thing they were looking to exploit because maybe people said unobtainium. Okay, guys, good job. I mean, it's not that unobtainium it doesn't exist within the physics world. It's kind of funny that it does, because it's the magic super thing.
Right.
But it just feels like,
Right. It just feels
placeholder
dumb.
that got
They could,
included.
yeah, they couldn't even put a real name in there. Like they couldn't
Yeah.
even put make up, some element or some elemental name that doesn't exist and put it in there. They had to call it an unobtainium. It just feels like bad storytelling. Like
or like a placeholder that made it to the final
yeah,
the final cut.
like in a video game, one of those placeholder models that winds up in the end of the game, and you're like, why does it look that way?
Yeah. Well, needless to say, I mean, I probably won't watch, The Way of the Water multiple times like I have Dune, and all that kind of stuff, but that's just me. So yeah, you guys have any comments to make before we talk about our last, I think, because we're going to talk about our next couple of weeks, but any other comments you wanted to throw out there before we talk about our next couple of weeks?
I loved Evil Dead Rise for what it's worth.
My one comment would be get together with some friends and play some board games. Have some fun.
Board games are also fun. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Board games are also fun. So with that in mind,
segue,
we will now commence the final approach. This is our landing sequence.
This is your captain speaking.
If anybody cares, never take an 18-month-old child on a plane if you can avoid it. I mean, at this point, or buy them a seat and strap them down. That's the only thing you can do. Otherwise, you don't have a chance. Let's just say we regretted not getting that extra seat.
It's a losing battle.
But so for the next couple of weeks, we actually want to cover a few things, and we wanted to kind of see if we could maybe put some polls out there to see what you guys wanted to hear us talk about. But the first thing we wanted to cover is we did want to finish up Candela Obscura. I mean, we only really had the play test, or not the play test, but the quick start. Fuck.
A little peek behind the curtain. We had a whole episode about Candela Obscura that never got posted because it didn't work. So, but when he says continue talking about Candela Obscura, he means talk about it for the first time.
For the first time ever, from our mouths to your ears.
We're going to talk about Candela Obscura for the first time ever on a recorded line. Needless to say, we have some very well formulated opinions about Candela Obscura that are lost into that are being munched on by the ghost in the machine. But needless to say, we're gonna talk about Candela Obscura. I mean, in terms of like a shorter, rules light, narrative driven game, it was interesting. We are finishing up the quick start adventure in it, so we will probably have spoilers, and so we apologize for anybody that is listening to that. We'll try not to spoil it too much, because I think spoiler-free reviews are always more appropriate if possible. And then we're going to try to switch gears and maybe hit a little bit of a crunchier game. For the last few weeks, we've actually been playing or looking at rules lights games, that haven't necessarily had a lot of depth to them. I mean, it was actually interesting because I said, hey, I was telling my wife what a crunchy game was, and she looked at me and I was like, oh, is this do tabletop role-playing people are the only ones that talk about games in terms of crunchiness or not? Because she had no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
Yep.
But what do you guys, when we say crunchy system, are we all saying the same thing, or is there like some weird bullshit that I'm like on a different planet?
But, oh no, we're all saying the same thing. When you talk about role-playing games in the crunchy sense, I think we're all, I mean, our opinions of what a crunchy game may be a little different because that varies from person to person. But when we say crunchy, I think we're all talking more rules heavy, combat heavy, more dice rolling sort of games.
Like Pathfinder is a crunchier game, right? It's GURPS is a crunchier game.
Anything where I got to have a book to look shit up in a table,
or a slide rule like GURPS, where you have to do physics calculations before you can figure out how your character's made.
Yeah, to make sure you're not exceeding your weight limit by 3 ounces.
Yeah. What is the TI-80 up to now? It's TI-87, TI-88.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think we're talking. I mean, and I don't know what else you would reference like that. Like you wouldn't call a video game crunchy or not because the rules are all behind. The rules are all behind the coding, so you never see them.
But I don't even think like board games get called crunchy, right? Because you don't. Because I think Crunchy really comes from like a power gaming.
There are some board games that come with like a 40-page manual that, like, you know, like Gloomhaven. There was a 20-page, 15-page setup manual.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
To set up and organize the box and even get ready to start. Like, you needed a session just to set that thing up. And I like Gloomhaven, but in turn, like, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, the setup is a kick in the dick.
A lot of rules.
The setup is a kick in the dick on Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it gets used in other games. You just call that a hard game or a game with a lot of rules.
High level of complexity. There's me sticking my nose in the air.
There, sure.
Sophisticated. So we'll probably check out our Crunchy game. My proposal was for us to look at Lancer. The people who made Lancer recently put out, another fantasy game called Icon as well. And so if you like Lancer, if you're thinking about Lancer, and you want to hear some people talk about Lancer from a first impression, and maybe even a sortie. I don't even know what they call the adventures in Lancer, but sortie sounds really cool. Maybe they could call it that. Maybe I'll call it that if they don't.
Lancer is Mike's attempt to get us to like anime more.
I just like mechs.
And that's
I like mechs too. I just don't like him as much as Mike does.
That's a Mike. It's an anime thing. You're allowed.
It's okay. I mean, honestly, giant robots, medium-sized robots. I like robots of most any size. So, yep. Not going to say that Pacific Rim wasn't a really exciting movie for me to watch when it came out the first time.
I remember you mentioning that actually when it came out.
Because Kelly was just like, "We're going to have to go see that in the theater." I'm like,
assuredly.
Giant robots and giant monsters? Oh, come on. hit me with some more of those kaiju. So, but needless to say, that might be what we review. It isn't set in stone, obviously, because if it's a crunchy enough system and we can't play it in the between now and then, we might have to delay that a little bit. We'll figure it out. But yeah. So next couple of weeks, we hope to see you there. We hope to get your guys' input, and that's it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on our welcome back show. We already did the socials, so I don't know if we want to hit those up again. Nope. All right. Go look at our socials. Please refer to earlier in the podcast if you would like to know what they're called. And thank you for joining us on our welcome back podcast in all of the sort of thought soup that it was. We'll be back to more organized things maybe next week. As always, roll well and roll wise out there, and thank you for joining us.
And subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe.
Oh yeah, that too. And the thumbs up thing. That stuff.
Thumbs up, subscribe. Do what those other fancy YouTube channels suggest you to do.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell. Set the bell so you get notifications when we
dance in a circle.
Yeah, do all those things.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.